Good afternoon, good morning, hello, wherever you are, and a very warm welcome to this webinar on getting ready for the tax and customs changes ushered in by Brexit and due to come into force on January the 1st, 2021. Thanks very much for joining. We'll be recording this webinar and sending you access to the replay in the next couple of days. Some of you have already sent us questions when you registered, and thank you for those. You've joined us in listen-only mode, and if you'd like to ask a question during the session, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. I'm pretty sure we won't be able to get to all the questions since we've already had a lot come through, and if we don't, we will respond to you offline. Okay, there are a lot of changes happening at the beginning of next year and all the way through 2021, affecting every business and consumer transacting both online and offline. These cover areas such as VAT, customs duty, how we ship goods, how we label them, and much, much more. Some of these factors are known, and some of them at the time of this webinar, and obviously right now they're changing on an hourly basis almost, some of them are unknown. So we've assembled 3 experts in the fields of tax, logistics, dispatch, and multi-channel. I'm your host for the session. My name is Paul Dilger with Volo Commerce, and we provide an e-commerce platform, a reporting platform, and services to grow your sales on marketplaces like Amazon, eBay, and OnBuy, and on web stores. Okay, I'd like to introduce our panelists in alphabetical order. First, Alan.
Hello.
Hi, Alan. Could you say a couple of things about yourself?
Yes, I'm a co-founder of Taxman. We established the company in London in 2012 with the aim of becoming a tax and legal one-stop provider for e-commerce, and I think we succeeded. I have some endeavors with e-commerce Europe, HMRC, so I think I can help today in clarifying the picture of Brexit VAT-wise. Thank you all for being here.
Very good, thanks, Alan. And Andrew, on to you.
Hi, Paul, thanks for that. So my name's Andrew Rowson. I look after an organisation called Emotive Online, which is a multi-channel service provision company, been around for about 8 years. I've been involved with multi-channel for nearly 20 years. I know you're all looking at me thinking, wow, he must have started when he was 10. But no, I've been around for about 20 years working with eBay, Amazon, during that time, and then previous to that I was working in retail, so I've always had a retail background. I also head up a relatively new project with Volo, which is Ecom Motors, so we're specializing in the parts and accessories category, helping brand manufacturers and sellers embrace multi-channel.
All right, thank you, Andrew. And last but not least, James.
Thanks, Paul. Afternoon, everyone. Thanks for tuning in live and taking the time to join us. I've been in parcels for 23 years now, and half of that has been focused on e-commerce specifically. Now representing Parcel Hub, who is a multi-carrier delivery provider and tracking support business. Now, anyone that knows me, and there's some on this webinar that do, my obsession is e-commerce, logistics, technology, and customer experience more so. So Brexit's fascinating and scary, as it'll affect all 3. And I guess the dark art is trying to understand Brexit, and hopefully this session will help some of you.
All right, thank you, James. Okay, so we've the balance of the hour to touch on the surface of all of these changes and to give you a flavour of what we think is going to happen. All of our experts will be available for you to reach out to after the discussion, and we'll put their contact details up on screen at the end of the webinar. Okay, Alan, perhaps you can start by summarising for us what's happening with changes to the charging and collection of VAT for UK purchases from the 1st of January 2021, and how that might differ for, let's say, a UK registered business selling on a marketplace like Amazon and eBay, or an EU or in fact further afield business selling on UK marketplaces.
Thank you, Paul. 2021 will be very challenging for all traders, both in Europe and the UK. We first have a Brexit on the 1st of January 2021 kicking off, and regardless of a free trade agreement or not, there will be new rules VAT-wise in the UK, a new regime for e-commerce players, and then from July, a VAT reform in Europe. So I'm starting from the first slide. The UK VAT reform, it will concern import of consignments to the UK with a value not exceeding £135, regardless of whether it's a website or marketplace sale, and the domestic UK to UK marketplace consumer sales. So I think we can move to slide number 2, and we can address the new rules. So an European or UK trader importing parcels with value not exceeding £135, no customs duty will ever apply, regardless of a free trade agreement. It's a so-called low value relief. But you will need to report VAT quarterly. So there will be no application of VAT at the border, as it usually happens when, for instance, you have products coming from China to the UK under the current regime. The idea is no customs duties, no hassle at the border for VAT, but merchants will need to report VAT quarterly. So it's by and large the same system applying in Norway, Australia, and New Zealand from a couple of years. But the problem is there is no yearly threshold. So a European merchant carrying out, I don't know, £5,000 worth of sales to the UK from Europe, they will need to register to report VAT quarterly. So life is easier at the border, but a bit more challenging for company administration purposes. The next slide. What happens with UK to UK consumer sales? If you are a non-established UK business, so if you are, for instance, a European business selling through a marketplace, eBay, Amazon, Frugo, the marketplace will collect and pay VAT on your behalf, but you will still need a UK VAT number to reclaim import VAT when the goods come in bulk to the UK warehouse, and to report your sales. Even if zero rated, you will still need to report them. So the requirement of a VAT number for non-UK established businesses with goods at a UK warehouse, we still apply. So you will need a VAT number if you hold stock in the UK from the first sale. So I'm trying to meet our timing requirements. So in a nutshell, these are the new rules in the UK for VAT purposes from the 1st of January for merchants.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Andrew, moving to you then. So what benefits or drawbacks do you think this will bring to buyers and sellers on marketplaces?
So let's talk about the positives, because there is one main one out of this. It makes it a level playing field, or more of a level playing field in the marketplace, because in theory, transactions, eBay, Amazon will collect tax at source. So there's no escaping. So the Chinese, the non-UK businesses that may have avoided paying tax can no longer do that, which then means from a pricing point of view, it makes it a more level playing field. And I would say that's the biggest bonus on that. There's no way avoiding it. You either pay it or you don't sell it. That's basically how it would work. Now, the downsides. It is a moving target, as Paul mentioned at the start. We are talking about the rules as they are now, and we've got 3 or 4 weeks till the end of the year, and they're still negotiating things. But as it stands at the moment, it will involve a lot more paperwork. You may, if you're a UK business, received lots of love letters from HMRC over the last few months, informing you of changes, what's going to happen, what you're going to do to get ready. And that's going to create work in administration. And there's ways to automate that, working with parcel couriers, which I know James will touch on during what he's going to talk about. But you've got to treat fundamentally like you're sending an item to Australia as in Europe. So, you know, commercial invoices, EORI numbers, commodity codes on the items. And, you know, systems can automate this, produce this out automatic. If you're using a third-party system, such as Volo, you know, you can automate all of that. And then there's going to be some changes. You know, you've got to make sure, this is really, really, really important. If you say the item originates as a marketplace seller from one country, it has to do that, because there's a lot of implications with that. So you've just got to watch out things such as, you know, if it's in the UK, it's not a problem. But if you then say, well, I'll source that from the supplier and we'll ship it direct from Italy to the UK, there's going to be some knock-on effects with that. So you've really got to make sure, if you say the location is the UK, it gets shipped from the UK and out to the UK as well. So it is, you know, there are people out there to help you, and you know, there's things such as Tame Bay, there's the people on this webinar that can help you and keep you most up to date with the rules. But those are the most benefits and the downsides as we see it at the moment.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. And turning to you, James, then, from your perspective, how will Brexit impact delivery and customs clearance?
A great question, and I suppose the million-dollar question that we've all been trying to find the answer to for the last 4 years. And we still don't have certainty, as Andrew was saying. Boris is still in Brussels. If you can just pop the next slide, Matt. What we do know, though, is that shippers are going to need to be specific about what they're sending and the reason why they're sending it. So UK retailers selling to consumers in the European Union can expect delays due to the extra paperwork and auditing that's probably going to come to play. So whatever the outcome, there are going to be changes to cross-border. I think we all accept that. And inevitably, to be blunt, I think mistakes are going to happen. And those changes for the bedded in period, could be weeks, could be months, could give us some pain. And those mistakes I mentioned, that could be the shippers, it could be people on this call that have not done the right or added the right data to the consignment. It could be the carrier, the delivery provider failing in some way, their integration doesn't work with customs. We are hearing that there could be some customs problems, the integrations and the software within the customs could have some issues. So there's delays potentially at various parts of the supply chain. So when you hear people saying goods could be stuck at the border, this is going to be the reason. So, you know, we've identified this, and for the last few years, our priority has been to ensure our shippers can try and deliver their goods with as little friction as possible. So you'll see a link there to our Brexit portal. We've got a load of support information to help you understand what you need. But some sort of highlights are: decide what terms you're going to trade on, DDU, which is pretty much what we do now into the EU, delivery duty unpaid, or DDP, delivery duty paid. So where you take the payment, or you take the duties from the consumer at the point of checkout. But if you can, also with the carriers, if you've only got one delivery provider into Europe at the moment, you probably need to add more, because if there are delays, it could be with the carrier. So if you haven't got any other options, you could be stuck. So you need to try and spread your risk as best as you can. But it's not all doom and gloom. You know, cross-border trade during the pandemic and recently is up 11%. So there is a lot more volume for people to be had. The key is doing your research and getting the information accurate before you ship that parcel. And we'll go into a little bit more detail in the next few questions.
All right, very good. Thanks, James. So, Alan, back to you then. VAT isn't the only thing we need to consider, clearly. So what are the customs changes from next month?
So from the 1st of January, nothing will be as before. We still, regardless of a free trade agreement, if any, there will be a border between, again, between the United Kingdom and Europe. So we will have customs duties. It is true that the UK has slashed many tariffs, and the Europe also, but for parcels with a value going from the UK to Europe with a value exceeding 150 euros, and the other way around from Europe to the UK, when the value exceeds 135 pounds, you may have customs duties. So as I said before, as a merchant, you can decide to have duty delivery unpaid. It means your customer at destination will pay the duties and VAT, but it can be a bit annoying, especially if the value of the transaction is very high. That's why luxury brands, they tend to use duty delivery paid. They publish on their website a retail price which already incorporates an estimation of duties and VAT applying at destination, and then they instruct the courier to pay customs the duties, and at the end of the month the courier will charge the merchant. So this way the final consumer in Europe or the UK will receive a customs cleared product, so no further action from the consumer. And as I said before, even if we reach a free trade agreement, life will never be as before, because there may be some checks at the border, for instance, for health and safety reasons. So the only way to go back to the previous system is to have a customs union between the UK and the EU, but this is not what the UK wants. The UK wants to be free to sign independent free trade agreement with the US or other countries. So it's a challenging period for UK and European merchants alike when it comes to customs flows management. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Alan. Good, thanks for the detail on that. So Andrew, then, so what will be the challenges, like additional paperwork for UK-based businesses selling items on marketplaces direct to a non-UK retail customer?
So we're going to assume there's not going to be a deal, okay? And if we assume that, then we've got to treat Europe like we treat the rest of the world. So those people that already ship to the rest of the world, actually the flow just needs to flip onto Europe. And your processes, and depending on the courier software you use, it may just be enabled, and you just got to be ready to get that paperwork printed out. Also working, it's important if you work with warehouses and drop shippers that ship on behalf to Europe, you need to have that conversation with them now to make sure they're ready. And James talked about their EORI number. Are they going to be using theirs? You need to get one if you're shipping directly to out of the UK as well. Are you going to be using yours? And that number is normally your VAT number with a few numbers either side. So it's just needs to be issued. It's an easy process. You sign up on a HRMC's website. And you get that number within signing up within a few hours normally, if you haven't already got that. The other thing is, we've been getting ready for this for 2 or 3 years from a marketplace point of view. eBay have been insistent on making sure the VAT number is on all accounts, and Amazon has been the same as well from a marketplace point of view. So you've got to just also make sure when you're doing your first VAT quarter filing that you're not contributing towards the VAT twice as well. So look at the reports that you're getting from eBay and Amazon. They will have a VAT report. I know Amazon does. eBay will have one coming up because of the changes, and making sure that you're not paying for this. Duplicated it on the other side, making sure you're not missing out on paying the VAT, because there's thresholds and there's different rules, as Alan, my colleague, has mentioned on that as well. So it's going to be, I think for the first 6 months, and I think HMRC have instigated on this, there's kind of a bit of a coaching type rules and environment there rather than an enforcement side. And I think they've also got to get their act together a little bit there as well. So it's on both sides, not just the merchant side, but also from the governmental side as well.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. James, throw it back to you then. So what data will sellers need to provide when shipping to the EU, either via marketplaces or direct from web stores to the buyer?
Yeah, leading on from what Andrew was saying, make sure you've got your EORI number, commodity codes, or HS codes are sometimes known as, country of origin, the value of the product, standard sort of data. Make sure that's in your ERP, your back office software. Sort of nuances. If you're trading in DDU terms, so pretty much most people are now into Europe, then great. You shouldn't have too much friction because, sorry, that's DDP. You've got to make sure you've got the phone number and the email for the recipient. So if it's DDU, the recipient's going to have to potentially pay duty and VAT before they get the parcel. If you haven't provided the carrier with the phone number or an email, or at least one of them, that's not going to happen because the French customs, they're not going to be able to get in touch with the recipient to take or ask for that payment. So that parcel will come back to you. So almost make it mandatory to get an email and a phone number. It's amazing how many shipments we see that have default phone numbers, default email addresses because they haven't been taken. You're going to have to stop that and make sure you get the recipient's correct details. Otherwise, you'll have a lot of returns and a lot of extra cost and time lost. I think it'd be wise to expect more inspections from the border, from customs. So this checklist here, it's really important that you've got the data against each shipment. And if we do face some sort of hard Brexit, one thing that we've come across is the declaration of multi-box consignments. So if you sell 7 products to a consumer or to a buyer, and that has to go into 2 different packages, traditionally you can declare as a consignment the 7 items. It may go down the road that you need to tell customs which box has which of the 7 items in it. So it's item level declaration, which could be a challenge for a lot of shippers because that decision a lot of the time is made at the packing bench. So how do you then feed that into your back office software to tell the courier? So that's something it's unclear whether it will happen, but we've had to do a lot of integration work just in case we go down that road. So we've tried to cover as many sort of doomsday scenarios as possible, and that's one that we see as a real challenge.
Okay, very good. Thanks, James. So Alan, back to you again. So there are changes coming in Europe as well. So could you please share for us what these are and perhaps also cover anything else major that sellers need to be aware of?
Yes, from the 1st of July 2021, originally was supposed to start in January, but because of a current international healthcare situation, it was postponed by 6 months. The 2021, sorry, I wrote it in the Italian way, EU, it should be EU VAT reform will kick off. So it's similar to the UK reform. It's based on 3 pillars. The famous distance selling thresholds for B2C intra-EU sales will be removed. So if you are shipping from Germany or from France, Italy to another European countries, as long as you make at least 10,000 euros per year of sales all around Europe, so it's a very low threshold, you will be able to report VAT from the country of dispatch of the products. Then there is another pillar, is the removal of the small consignment exemption, which is currently set at 22 euros. It will be removed. You will pay VAT on the full, on all parcels. And third, and this is linked to the next 2 slides, there is a new marketplace VAT liability. If you can please skip to the next slide, I can show you what's going to happen. This is a slide concerning, yes, the removal of the distance selling thresholds. When you ship from Europe to Europe, for instance, with an Amazon warehouse facility, VAT will always apply at the destination, and you will be able to report VAT without the need of VAT numbers all around Europe. You will be able to use one VAT number for each warehouse. So if you're using the Amazon FBA program with 7 warehouses or more, you will need multiple VAT numbers, but you will not need VAT numbers in a destination everywhere. So the next slide, please. I know it's not easy to address a complicated reform in minutes, but we will try. This is the first case of marketplace liability. Every time a seller based in the EU or not imports products from outside the EU to the EU with a value not exceeding under 50 euros, no customs duties, but VAT will apply on the full value of the parcel and including shipping charges. So, and you will be able to report it electronically through a unique VAT number for all Europe by using the import one-stop shop. So this is quite a simplification. The only problem, non-European established businesses, they may need an intermediary who is going to be liable for any unpaid VAT. So this could probably trigger an increase in the compliance costs for UK businesses. And last but not least, there is another slide. Yes, very similar to the UK reform. You're using as a UK business an European warehouse, and you're having products shipped from the European warehouse in, I don't know, in Germany to a German consumer or a French consumer. The marketplace will be liable to report and pay VAT, as in the previous case. So both on imports not exceeding under 50 euros and on European business to consumer sales, and in the latter case, regardless of the value of transaction, the marketplace has a new role to report and collect VAT on behalf of a merchant. So it's a simplification for the traders and a burden for marketplaces, we shall say. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Alan. Okay, Andrew, so can you talk to us about the changes to Amazon FBA, please?
Yeah, so the rules apply to everybody in every business. So Amazon isn't exempt to these rules. So they've had to change the way they're doing a few things post Brexit or from the 1st of January. One of the biggest changes is their pan-European project, in respects that if you've got items in a FBA warehouse that's in the UK, you could then ship them out to a customer in Europe. There's some charges normally involved with that, but it's an easy way for you to actually just put your items in one country and then ship them to all of the Amazon clients around Europe. That still works in Europe, but that is stopping from the UK to Europe. Now that presents some challenges, you know, both from a consumer choice point of view. You know, I'm not based in the UK. I've been looking this morning on Amazon to buy something out the UK to ship to me in Europe. Most of my options are closed down. Now I see that as an opportunity for merchants, that they do need to then split their stock in Europe and also in the UK if they want to embrace the FBA program. That also has the benefit of getting it quicker to the consumer, which then enables you to increase your sales as well. So I would say to have a look at that if you use the FBA program with Amazon. Have a look at what's been sold, look at your reports, and start planning for that now, so you've not got a revenue stream that suddenly gets cut off at the end of this month. And then also look at other options. You can, you know, advertise on Amazon and utilize warehousing on both sides of the water. So, you know, look at that if you're a European business. You know, look at fulfillment in the UK if you don't want to just use the FBA option as well. But that's the biggest change that's happening. And, you know, it's about getting ready for it. We've got, just over 22 days now, haven't we? And we also, you know, if you want to embrace that, you need to ship the stock, and it will be easy to ship stock this side of Brexit than the other side in bulk. So, you know, I would start looking at that now.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. James, back to you. So how do you think carriers will operate differently in terms of the data they need and how they will handle their customers' processing of customs requirements?
They'll all handle it differently, that's certain. Some carriers don't know, you might be surprised to hear. So they're still trying to decide or waiting for the decision on the deal. Most of the fast parcel carriers will allow adequate DDP and DDU solutions. The challenge we're going to have is with some of the economy carriers, so your 2 to 4 day services into Europe, where it's potentially part postal, part tracked, part courier. They're the grey areas. We've got some carriers that are reluctant to commit to even things about how we integrate with them, what data they want, whether they can take the data from us, the customs relevant data. The challenges are going to be, what are you going to do? Are you going to sell as a DDU? So you make the consumer pay for the duty upon arrival of the parcel, or you do it in advance, so delivery duty is paid. So you take in the payment at checkout. There are some important factors to consider here, and this is where the risk is for everyone. There are a lot of admin fees around DDP. So when you take payment up front from the carriers, which change from anything from £2 and £3 right up to £15, £16 just to process that DDP payment. And that's from the likes of DHL, FedEx, UPS, the fast parcel carriers. You're going to have a customs fee as well on top of that to go DDP. So let's say you were paying £5 for a shipment to Germany for a kilo, just as an average price. That potentially will become £13.50 post December. So that is your DDP charge for the carrier to administrate that taking of the payment and the customs clearance fee. So potentially we're going to be paying a lot more for shipments into Europe for DDP. So if you're selling something for 30, 40, 50 pounds, have you got an extra £8.50 margin to cover that? So we're waiting to see what the outcome will be, obviously, eagerly. But the alarm's just gone off. That's good timing, isn't it? What we're trying to do is inform shippers as best as possible as the information comes out. We're sending out carrier-specific updates because each carrier has got a totally different policy. There isn't a universal approach to this. But again, the clear message we're giving our shippers, there's 1,500 or so businesses that ship through Parcel Hub, is that we're open to ship for them now and in January because of our multi-carrier approach. Now, if you've only got one route to market, one provider to Europe, you could have an issue come January. With that multi-carrier approach, you can quickly reroute your goods through different carriers. So to answer the question, they're all going to handle it differently. But as long as you can transmit the data to them, that's important. So you need to check that your platform and your carrier can accept the data that you're sending to them. So do some tests, run some tests, some live tests to make sure that the data is received, the customs, HS codes, etc.
All right.
Updates.
Very good. Thanks, James. Well, thanks, gentlemen, for your advice and insight during the more formal part of the webinar. So we're now going to open up the floor for questions we've received both during the registration process and during the webinar right now. So just a reminder to, if you'd like to put a question to the expert panel in the next few minutes, click the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and post your question there. So that would be great. So just while we give you a few minutes to do that, I'm going to scroll through some of the questions we've already received in. So first question then is possibly for you, Alan. It's as follows. We have a tax warehouse in Germany and have conflicting views of its continuation from the 1st of January 2021. Any comments?
Yeah, I think I have good news. There is no problem. You can keep using the German warehouse, and Germany is one of those countries that don't require non-European businesses to appoint a fiscal representative. So it's going to be as it is now. The only difference, if you are importing products from the UK to Germany, to the German warehouse, you will, if there is no free trade agreement, most likely have to pay import duties in Germany. So, but it's still feasible, this kind of arrangement.
Okay, thanks, Sam.
No worries.
Another question then, this is another regional question, but possibly for James, although you chaps can decide. We are in Northern Ireland. What do we have to do to sell within Northern Ireland to Great Britain and to the rest of the world, both from a customs declaration point of view and listing products? Who'd like to take that one?
I think a lot will be decided about what the deal is specifically around Northern Ireland. I think there's still a lot of unknown.
Yeah, I think actually they've come up with an agreement just while we've been talking on Northern
In the last
Ireland.
hour or so, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know the details of that. From a listing point of view, it would be normal. Whether then they would take tax at source or not, that needs to be fathomed out on that as well.
Okay, very good. I think it did come in on the news in the last hour or so that the UK government has agreed to obey the border protocol and renege on its original threat a couple of months ago to basically renegotiate the Brexit arrangement. Okay, so next question then. On a recent webinar, Amazon said that we would need to deliver all goods duty and VAT paid to the end user. DHL offer this service, but how would we do this with Standard Royal Mail or Hermes that make up the majority of our European parcels? Would like to take that conundrum.
Yeah, so I'll talk from a marketplace. There is some conflicting views, and I have seen that email, but when you press Amazon, they're not insisting it. I think there will be a defined statement in the next few weeks as we see things come. But knowing Amazon, and they want a very stream flow buying experience, I wouldn't be surprised if that is what they come out with. The parcel thing, I'm not sure whether, James, you can take that,
Yeah.
Hermes and Royal Mail.
Yeah, I'm not specifically on Royal Mail. I'm unsure. We're still waiting on Hermes to announce how they will handle DDP, which is what you're trying to do there by the sounds of it. You've got to consider if it is low value goods, and you go down the route of DDP, so you take you essentially take the VAT payment up front from the buyer. Those extra costs that you're going to incur that I mentioned earlier, is it still going to be viable for you? You need to reach out directly to your Hermes account manager. From our perspective, it's unclear whether Hermes will or will not offer DDP. So you need to speak to your carrier specifically on that.
Okay, thanks, James. We'll take one of the live questions now. So question has come in, will France, Italy and Spain require UK sellers to appoint a fiscal representative? Alan, perhaps you'd like to.
Yes, Italy and Spain, most likely. France, I think, but I need to double check. I think they have waived this requirement. So France, I need to double check in all fairness, has most likely waived this requirement, but Spain and Italy, they will ask for a fiscal representative, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, next question. Will we need to have customs software in order to pre-declare deliveries from our European suppliers in Germany? And do we need to be pre-declaring shipments going to Europe, or is this only for lorry loads, just like sending a parcel to the USA?
Are they talking about bringing in bulk products into the UK or sending single e-commerce parcels? What?
Difficult to know from that question. Are you in a position to answer either way?
If it's parcels going out, so single e-commerce orders, then you don't need to pre-declare it. It's contained within the label, essentially, as long as the data is given to the carrier. Bulk shipments, it's not my space. I'm not quite sure on bulk shipments, but if you're doing export of a £50 or £200 order, it should be declared as part of the label. So you don't need to do anything in advance. You just need to make sure the customs data is assigned to the consignment.
Maybe he's referring the question to the new computerized transit system. I think it doesn't apply to courier parcels. It's more lorry loads, based on the very scarce information in the question. Sorry, Andrew.
No, I was going to say, I believe it's dependent on thresholds when it's bulk, that you pre-declare it. And also there's an option to pre-declare it in order to make sure that there's not a hold-up at customs as part of that as well. From my knowledge on a B2B, I think, you know, that is one thing I would say. If you have got fulfillment warehouses in, you know, your UK business going into Europe or vice versa, I would move the stock as much as you can this side of Christmas, if you can do that, because it's just business as normal at the moment.
Okay, thanks, gents. We've had a follow-up question on the fiscal representation question, asking, is a fiscal rep only required where you hold stock in those countries? And that's referring export from the UK to EU. Any?
Yes.
Does that change the answer, Alan?
Yeah, I mean, you are required to have a fiscal rep every time you are required to be registered for VAT. So I would say yes, if you hold stock there. Otherwise, there is no reason why you should have a VAT number overseas after the Brexit.
Okay, very good. Okay, next question. What shipping delays are courier companies expecting on sending parcels from the UK to mainland Europe? Obviously, that's a $64,000 question, but anybody want to speculate there?
There's one particular carrier, I won't name names, I think that'd be fair, that's already got delays which are COVID related, and you pile on top of that potential delays with Brexit, and the delays will be because things have not been done correctly by the shipper. You've not got the right data attached, but if your parcel's front of the queue, you know, that will snowball effects down the line to everybody else's parcels. I would be advising your consumers to expect delays. It's impossible to give a date on it. It could be 7 days, it could just be 24 hours, but I would think there'll be delays. However, if there is a massive downturn in volume because people are reluctant to buy, reluctant to sell, that might offset any of the delays. So it's an unknown.
Well, one thing to add on to that, and you know, living with EU laws over the years, it is also interpretation of each member state of those laws and how they're going to enforce that. So you may see delays in certain countries. You know, typical example, you know, GDPR, the smoking rules. You know, you go to one country, it's enforced in one way, but in another one, it's the other way. So, you know, one country may take it stringent for checks. Another one may just think, let's just keep on the flow and take that avenue. I think, you know, from this is just, I'm not going to facts and figures on that, but any country that's surrounded by water, such as Cyprus, Malta, and those sort of things, I think the checks will be a little bit more stringent than they would be in continental Europe, where there's no borders in between the two countries. Okay,
thank you both. So here's a great question, and not just because I don't have to answer it. What keeps the panelists awake at night thinking about the changes discussed during the webinar? Who'd like to go first?
Warehouses full of undelivered parcels.
Yeah, that's a fairly tangible fear, I think.
On that, this was back in, I think it was the last time we were at the sort of the Gates of Mercy. Was DPD were preparing lots and lots of warehouses just to hold stock of parcels that didn't have the right data. So they were preparing for a lot of products, where thousands and thousands of parcels to be held. So they'd geared themselves up with warehouses ready to hold that stock. If it does come to that, that stock won't go back to the merchants very quickly either, if there are so many.
Okay.
For me, it's whether the food parcel my parents send me from UK every month will stop, because now of customs duty and all that sort of thing. Now, joking aside, actually, it's the unknown and being reactive. Working with marketplaces, they try and advise us of changes in advance, but when they start affecting sales because there's certain things that we haven't embraced or we don't know about, that is what keeps me up at night, and that is a concern. And this is one of the biggest changes that we've had in my lifetime. I think 2020 will go down as the year of a lot of firsts in all of our lifetimes. But and because things aren't finalized, that's the biggest challenge that we have.
Okay, Alan, how about you?
I will be serious. I think the learning curve for merchants, especially learning to separate marketplace sales where the marketplace is liable for VAT and all the other sales where the merchant is supposed to report and pay VAT is going to be quite a headache, I believe. I mean, it's already a headache to work on Amazon data because of all the multiple countries involved. But now with this distinction between zero-rated and taxable sales based on the channel, it will be not easy. Yeah.
Okay, thank you all three. So another question come in here. We might have covered this, but it won't harm for a reminder. What is eBay's approach to Brexit? Are they going to be deducting tax/duty at source, or will it be left for the customer or seller to sort? Who'd like to reinforce that one?
So it will be depending on the rules of where the sale originated or where it's being shipped to, and based on the thresholds. And this is not just eBay, this is all marketplaces. So as the law, as I understand it, is if it is a marketplace, which is a gathering of different merchants, the marketplace is jointly liable within the rules of making sure they enforce the VAT. Otherwise, they have to pay it. So they will enforce it within those rules. And just to reiterate, I think what we've all said, just keep an eye on your reports. Make sure that you are declaring VAT on your quarterly return if you need to do that. And if it's already been declared, don't declare it again. You need to declare the transaction, but you don't want to be double paying the VAT. Unless
you want, because of statistics reasons.
Unless you love paying into, the government have got a deficit. If you want to pay to that charity, then go ahead.
All right, thanks for that. So here's an interesting question then. Are there any advantages to Brexit that can be exploited?
I think there will be, and that will come from the free trade agreements, which allegedly that will happen. I look at Israel and the US, for example. They have no duty, they have no tax, they've got that agreement. It's so easy for diamond sellers to sell into the US and vice versa. And that's a great example there. Israelis don't really want to sell into Europe because of all the complications that they've got at this moment in time. So I think it will enable a lot more free trade, but that's going to take time. I think what you can exploit early doors is just getting ready by getting the stock in the right place, and exploit that availability challenge that will be from the 1st of January, where sellers haven't thought about this, where you can then take a mark on that and increase your sales. As we've seen, online sales have increased this year, and that will continue whether if after the 1st of January. So you still need to embrace that.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. Question that's just come in live. What about customer returns from Europe to the UK? Any VAT or duty on that?
We should still have the right to return. I don't know the exact wording for it is, but you should be able to return it without having to pay extra VAT, as long as it comes back as part of the same out and in consignment. So as long as you can tag the inbound consignment to be associated with the outbound, you should be able to avoid that.
And just to add on to that, it's important that you go through the process with the marketplace on the return, because if the VAT was collected on the marketplace, it will be returned to you as part of that. If you don't do that process, then you will miss out that VAT return if you paid VAT or the customers paid VAT on the way out. And the same if you declare it internally as part of your business return.
Okay, thank you. And another live question, in regards to platforms collecting VAT, will this still apply to UK businesses after Brexit? And will we declare VAT at 0 like we currently do with the rest of the world?
Shall I?
Please.
Yeah. I will start from the second bit of the question. Yes, I mean, if you are shipping from the UK to the rest of the world, is always 0 rated from a UK perspective. And regarding the question of the marketplace liability, it will apply in a specific condition if you're selling to Europe. It will not apply for UK domestic sales, or if you import to the UK consignments with a value higher than £135. So I would say that UK businesses are outside of marketplace liability for the UK, but they will be under the scope of the new European rules if they sell to Europe.
Okay, thanks, Alan. And
just to add on to that, I think, as you'll see, for example, if you're selling into the US, the marketplaces collect tax depending on the state you're sending it to. So you'll see more of that, and you'll see more countries out of the EU embracing that. I think Australia is looking at that, and in order to try and protect tax into their own countries.
Okay. A question here from a small business. How best can small businesses set up to continue selling goods under the 135 sterling in value into EU?
Who wants to go with that?
Alan, go on. It's tax.
Okay. Yeah, it's not a matter of setting up, really. I mean, and it's not a matter of setting up. Under the threshold of 150, the first 6 months of 2021, it will be DDP or DDU, and then you will be able to use the import one-stop shop, or the marketplace in Europe will pay VAT on your behalf. So it's not really a matter of setting up, it's just knowing the rules, I would say. It's going to be challenging because there are many rules and an intertwining of rules, UK, Europe, all introduced within a very similar time frame. So it's going to be a learning curve, as I said, 2021. Yeah.
I think one thing that, eBay has sent emails out to European sellers asking them for UK, if they've listed directly on the UK site, to actually add the VAT value on there, or eBay will assume that that price is ex VAT and they will add that onto the transaction. So you do have a choice to do that if you want to do that, and you can set that up using third-party listing tools like Volo or in the back end of the eBay console. But again, it's a moving target. So for Europe, they may take the same approach, but that's what they're doing with UK at the moment.
Okay, thanks. Let's try and get to as many questions. We're down to the last 2 or 3 minutes, but there's questions coming in all the time. How will the shipment of free samples to the EU through parcel networks be affected by Brexit? Interesting question.
Yeah, we've had this one and we are uncertain of the answer, unfortunately. So I've seen that question come in early, and I've made a note to make sure I try and get some meat on the bone for you, and I'll respond directly to you if that's okay. We're unsure at the moment.
Okay, very good. Let's try and get a couple more in before we close out. Question here, what about selling through own website? What VAT will we have to apply? As the marketplace will collect that automatically, but what about own website?
So the answer is you are responsible for collecting that VAT and stating that as you are now. The rules only affect marketplaces, and there's a clear definition of what a marketplace is on the HMRC website, but it is somewhere where they deal predominantly. There's kind of a means test, but it is if whether they don't own the goods, if they host other sellers, and if they handle the payment. Those are the 3 checkpoints on that. So eBay, Amazon is, you know, there is debate whether Shopify could potentially be one, but I would say they're not at this moment in time. But you know, you are responsible for that, you know, declaring that VAT.
Okay. Thanks, Andrew. Okay, so one last question, and whoever answers this is probably going to need a bit of a crystal ball, but it's also a blank slate, I guess. Do you see the import duty of product changing for the better or worse if a deal is done? How are you feeling about that?
I mean, the deal is meant to improve the conditions, right? So if there is a deal, a free trade agreement, I mean, it's going to improve, it's going to repeal tariffs on many products. That's the purpose of a free trade agreement.
I think you've got to take World Trade Organization rules as worst case scenario.
Yes.
And then anything better than that is individually done with the different countries.
Yes.
You know, there's a lot of change. You know, you've got a different administration in the US, and there's a lot of tariffs being put in by the current administration. So, you know, that's one thing. You know, there's all these deals that the UK government are saying they've already, they can't formally negotiate, or haven't been able to formally negotiate it, but they have been trying to firm those up this year now. So I think there's a lot that will happen, but our biggest trading partner is the EU. There's no doubt about that from a UK perspective, and that's one of the most important ones. So that's why they're spending a lot of time doing that.
Very good. Okay, thank you very much indeed. If we can move to the contact details slide, that would be fantastic. So we're at the end of our allotted time, unfortunately, and we didn't get to all the questions, I'm afraid. I'm sure though many of you have calls and meetings at the bottom of the hour, so we will endeavour to follow up on all the questions we couldn't get to today. Thank you to our expert panelists, Alan of taxmen.eu.
Thank you.
Andrew of Emotive Online.
Thank you very much. And
James of Parcel Hub.
Thanks, Paul.
Their contact details are on screen. And thanks, of course, to you all, the audience, for staying with us throughout this webinar. I hope it's been as engrossing for you as it has been for me to host. Good selling, everyone, and goodbye.
Bye-bye.